Welcome to Level 3 Readiness. What are we getting into this week? Well, we're going to choose the best survival and bushcraft tool to accompany me in the Level 3 Readiness Survival Challenges. So stick around. I'm going to show you how to pick the best tool to take with you into the wild to survive anything. Level 3 out. All right, so what we got to look at here, we've got a couple of chopping implements, two cutting, and we have Old Faithful, the LTR Ember. So you all know that this is going with me on my adventures and in my challenges. It's my belt knife, it's my survival knife, it's my bushcraft knife, it's my get it done knife. All right, but what about the rest of these things here on the table? Well, you know, I've got two hatchets, one axe, a bow saw, and a hand saw. And I'm going to put these things through some paces, and we'll talk about the different uses for them and how I'm going to go about choosing what's going to be the best thing to accompany me in my next series of challenges, which is shelter building. All right, so it's another 98 degree summer day. But hey, I hope you guys had a great 4th of July. Let me remind you real quick, if you entered the Level 3 Readiness giveaway, Gerber Strong Arm Camp and Gerber Freeman Guide, there are 3 steps. Remember, this is Level 3 Readiness. So what are those 3 steps? Check out the video that I put out last week. I'll put the link in the description. Check it out. Make sure you got all 3 of those items done if you want to be in the running for that Gerber Strong Arm Camp. All right, so let me go ahead and tell you about the tools I'm choosing. One, I'm gonna go ahead and get around I'm going to kick this one out here. This is my Old Faithful axe. All right, and I'll tell you, I have cut down things as big as this right here, and this right here is a nice place to leave it. All right, so what do I got next? Now, all of these, let me say, are viable options in choosing a tool. I do like the idea of the hatchets, and really 2 decent hatchets right there and 2 decent cutters there. So, you know, again, if I had stuff like this in the woods, this type of logs, you know, I might want that axe over there to help me with splitting it and making and processing it down. But you know, you've already seen that you can go into the woods and you can process down manageable pieces of wood for your fire. But when we talk about shelter building, we're talking more about processing more wood and different things like that. So, you know, what I want to think about, one is cutting down poles for building structure. 2, what I want to talk about is shaping the poles. Maybe we want to do some notches. Maybe we want to do some points, some stakes to drive in the ground. What's going to be our best for that? So, you know, those are things that we're going to talk about. Those are things we're going to get into. All right, so we got some boards set up right here. Different types of woods, hickory, got some beech, got another piece of beech right here. And then we've got the old petrified cedar. Now, you know that the Gerber Freeman Guide broke on this piece of cedar. You also know that the LTR Ember literally chopped it in half. But you know, it was a lot of work, and that's the thing that we can look at. I can cut through a piece of this in literally a quarter or an eighth of the time that it took to chop with the knife. If I want to chop this with a hatchet, I can do it in maybe a quarter of a time. But again, the saw is going to go through that much quicker. But I'm not going to be using stuff like that. I might be using poles about this thickness right here to do some things like that. But also, you know, think about poles this size right here. And, you know, again, the LTR Ember is just not going to process this very well. All right, so let's get the hatchets out and see how they work on this type of wood here and this type of sizes. All right, first of all, we're going to work with the piece of hickory here. And we're talking about working with the hickory. I'm using this hatchet right here. It was a Harbor Freight special. You can check it out. It doesn't come super sharp. It does better for splitting than it does chopping. So don't think this will be one that goes with me. But Let's just see right here how we do. This is hardwood, you can see already. We're getting into it pretty good there. And I'm pretty certain I can make my way through and around. To get through that without a whole lot of effort. It goes in pretty deep. I'm gonna grab the other hatchet and we'll cut just above it here and see how well it does. And this is again, it's a sharper hatchet, so it does dig in deep. But you know, the way it feels in my hand, it's a little bit of a narrow handle. I might would choose the old hickory handle and that one over there if I was going to do long-term work. But again, you see there we're somewhat comparable with hatchets, but let me set this up next. Because this right here is a old favorite, the bow saw, and it's seen some use. It's even been left out in the woods. But let's just see what kind of work we can produce with the bow saw. You know, the point I'd want to make there is, one, how fast you can get through something like that with bow saw versus a hatchet, and how clean of a cut you get when you use a saw. Now, let's talk about the next candidate here. We've got the folding handsaw by Rex Biddy. Both this and the hatchet over there, the orange hatchet, were off of Amazon. And the thing about this one, it's not going to be as efficient as, say, the bow saw. One, we're going to be cutting like this. Next, we're going to be cutting like that. So I'm gonna set the hickory up again. We're gonna see how quick this right here gets through it and decide if the packability, size, and ergonomics, what's gonna be best in these two choices of saws. All right, let me get the guard back on this real quick. All right, here we go with the handsaw already. I jump around a lot more with it. Maybe a shorter stroke. A little more flimsy of the blade aspect, getting started. But I'll tell you, no slouch in the cutting department. But also not as straight either. You notice how I'm misaligned on my cuts here. So that would definitely slow me down a bit. All right, so got through it pretty quick. Nice clean cut, but it's definitely not square. I'm definitely not looking at, there we go. Yeah, I'm definitely not looking at a good right angle. All right, so we've seen that and seen that. So these were the cuts from the bow saw. This the cut from the hand saw. All right. You know, the funny thing, if I want to make this into some kindling, I'm not going to be doing this. I'm now going back to one of my choppers. So just interestingly enough, let's see which one of these guys splits this the best, all right? I'll use the Harbor Freight on the longer piece here. Just try to one swipe it, see what we get. All right, so did a fine job with that. Now we'll try the, let's see, this is called a Kasaibi. We'll see what we get here with this one. So one, a bad hit. And a solid strike straight through it. This thing's sharp. And I know the size of my blocks here are telling. And we got into a knot right there. Now that being said, Harbor Freight seemed to stick on the knot too a bit. Now again, for me personally, I'm definitely not the most accurate with these little hatchets, but I can still make it work. I just have to be really careful when swinging, not to hit a limb or hold my hand, anything like that. And with these guys here, again, they can process larger logs down much faster than I can with the hatchet. And the crazy thing is that when paired together, man, this right here is a good set of tools for shelter building. I'll show you one of the things I love about a saw and a hatchet together here in just a second. So we see how incredibly cool it is for these guys to work together to make notches. That would allow for this type of interlocking and laying of boards for structures or for walls. Etc. So again, if I think about, you know, what I'm going to be using, I'm going to be using my knife. I'm going to be using poles. Hopefully this type of diameter, 1.1 to 1.5 inches. And when I think about processing this type of wood, I go back to, again, I can shape it out pretty well with the sharp hatchet. I can cut it really cleanly with either of the two saws. And so let me just put a point on this here stick, see how we go. Just gonna make a stake. Again, we got something we could drive into the ground. And you know, I might want to trim this up, pretty it up a bit with the ember. Make it a little more formidable. Going into the woods, but again, they would pair pretty well. You know, getting a nice point on the stake for any type of things we would be doing with shelter building. Now, if I was left with the hatchet, I mean the little saw here, the folding saw. Well, one, let's clean this up again. That is a beautiful thing right there. But now, I mean, I want to make some kind of a stake. I mean, you see where I'm going with this. Again, that's just not going to do very well. But again, we're pairing these tools with our knife. And I'll go ahead and say that chopping with the ember is a lot more energy expenditures than what we would see with a hatchet. You know, so I'd really have to ask the question, what are we looking at when we're doing something like this? Are we wanting nice clean cuts? Are we wanting shaped wood? Because I'd rather over and over 100 times shape this with the hatchet. And then clean it up. But again, I got something right now that I could drive pretty forcibly into the ground. So what's a guy to do when he has a choice of limited tools? Now I will tell you this, I could lay down the Gerber Ember because I've got the choice right now to upgrade my knife. I could upgrade it to the hatchet. I also have the opportunity to add a tool. And would I add the little hand saw here? Or would I add the full-on bow saw there? You know, how much time am I giving myself to decide? Well, I can tell you this, for one, the Ember, it's going with me. And then for what it's worth, I'll tell you what, before I decide which tool to take, you guys tell me what are the advantages of a hatchet or a saw, and which one you take into the woods if you were building shelter. What's more important to you? Nice clean cuts, being able to create shapes like the stakes and the points to drive into the ground. I mean, honestly, I'm thinking I could do without the stakes and driving things into the ground. And if I had to have something I could drive into the ground, I could probably shape it with my knife. Again, you know, I'm just at a I'm at a loss here. I will tell you what I would say if, and this isn't my final answer, but I'm saying if I was going into the woods and I only got two choices out of all these guys, you know, what two tools would I choose? All right, I'm gonna go with, and again, this is unofficial. I wanna hear what you guys say about it first, but unofficially, I'm going with the Ember. I'm going with the folding saw. All right, those are my two choices for your best bushcraft survival challenges, unofficially. I gotta give it some thought, and by next video, I'll let you know definitely what I'm gonna choose. So I still have to go out in a commercial tent. I still have to do an overnighter. I still have to make a fire with a 1, 2, or 3. With that be said, let me remind you again, if you want to be entered in the Gerber Strong Arm Camp giveaway, the Gerber Freeman Guide giveaway, there are 3 things you need to do. So make sure you do all 3 if you want to be entered. And again, if we're going out into the wild and we're going to have to build some structures from the ground up, I mean, I really don't know, but from the ground up, not sure what materials I'm going to have. I've got some thinking to do. So let me get to pondering, let me get to thinking, and you tell me what you think the best 2 choices for bushcraft survival challenges would be out of what I've got to work with here. And if you think I need to find something else, because these were donated tools for me to try, I'm sure somebody else would donate me some more things if I needed to put them through the rigors too. But I've got a good idea of what these tools will do, and I'm going to go ahead and think about the pros and the cons of each and make my decision, because when I go into the woods, I'm only going to be able to carry 2 tools. the one that I've chosen and the one that's additional. All right, so again, this is level 3 readiness. Thanking you guys again for the subscriptions. Appreciate you guys participating in the Gerber Strong Arm Camp giveaway. But thank you for the comments. I know, again, participating in the giveaway. I really appreciate that. But again, I appreciate everybody's support for the channel. And that being said, this is level 3 readiness, reminding you to finish what you start, finish strong, and be ready for anything. Because I'm going to tell you, whether summer, fall, winter, or spring, it's coming. So be ready for it. Level 3 out. Good night. It is hot out here. Ooh.